Hello, Canada. Welcome to POW. My name is Ernie Cardinal, and I'm from Spirited Children's Society here in New Westminster, which is located on the unceded territory of the Kakite people. It's my honor today to come back for the second year in a row to remake a new medicine wheel for us. Now, this is something we're going to do together. It's a journey that me and you are going to walk together. It's going to be unique because our medicine wheels can never be duplicated. So if you see the video from last year, you'll see that it was a walk of medicine, a walk of acknowledgement of our nation and our territory. And I was very honored to share that time with you. Today, this walk will be a little bit different, because as you probably have noticed in the news and on the streets here in New Westminster and the surrounding area, you'll see a lot of people wearing orange. And today, we're going to talk about the little lives that we've always knew about, but now it's coming to light. Today, we have news of 751 children of unknown origin that were discovered. So today could be a day of great mourning, which it is, but it can also be a day of great anger against Canada. Or it can give us the opportunity of reconciliation, to realize that now that we can speak the truth from our heart and from our mind, that we can come together finally at a table where we are going to be meeting as equals. So this opportunity is at a great cost, the great cost of our ancestors who never had a chance to walk through that medicine wheel that I described last year, who would be able to grow, become strong, feel what it's like to love and laugh and have an old family and grow old and give the wisdoms that I'm sharing with you right now. They never had that opportunity because they were taken from their medicine wheel and they were put into a cold, dark place and they never returned home. So today is an honor for them. So we burned some medicine, we felt in a good way, and we as Aboriginal people and our allies who are filming us right now are going forward in a good way. Just like this picture, which encapsulates the Canadian spirit. Now, a lot of people could look at this picture and see colonizers, people that are braving their way through territories that are already there to change and to civilize. That's a picture that is now being looked at in a different light. Or you can look at it as Europeans embracing Aboriginal culture, ablazing their canoes with the medicine wheel, right? Using vessels that were brought in by the Cree people and the people of the woodlands, embracing and sharing their foods and their traditions. Without the voyeurs, we would never have the Métis people. And now myself, a Nihiao from the Cree Nation, I happily carry the Métis fire bags out of respect and the collaboration of sharing culture. So I look at this picture and I think of Canada, a country that is built in diversity, a country that is going to come together over this hard time and not forget those children, but to bring them into our heart, to burn that medicine so that we can all come together and mourn in a good way so that we can bring true change. Now, through change, we have to do it by finding that balance. But to find balance, you're going to have to learn the teachings. I will bring these teachings back onto our table together. And for a lot of people out there, they're going to look at this medicine wheel and they're going to agree and they're going to go, yes, that is a medicine wheel. But for a lot of other people, they're going to see this and they're going to go, that is my medicine wheel. This is my teachings. So we're going to see different ways to find balance. Now, because things are going to be a little different, that doesn't mean that one side is right and one side is wrong. That doesn't mean that there's a gray area. That just means that it's the same rock. It just is how you look at it. Because a medicine wheel is a mirror. When you look at a medicine wheel, you're looking at yourself and you're looking at your ancestors. You're looking at everything in your universe, the way you conceive it and the way you perceive it. So, the teachings that you have may be different. So I'm going to share my teachings from my family, from my elders that I've learned from through my many, many years walking on Mother Earth. So, we always start right in the center. And at that center, we got to find our common grounds, the thing that make us who we are. Those amazing things can come together as simple as north, east, south, and west. Now I bring these teachings to the children. And when I share this to them, it has to be something that is so basic that no matter where you are, if you're in Africa, if you're in South America, if you're in Antarctica, if you are anywhere across the world, no matter where you are, if you look north, it's always going to be north. You're always going to know that if that's north, then in the east, every morning, you'll be greeted by a sun. That's the beginning of a new day, and you always know that. That's something that we will share. A Nihial, a European, an African, no matter where you are, we always know that the sun will rise to the east, and it's always going to be a beautiful morning. Right? These are the basic things that bind us together, because it doesn't matter where you are. You're always going to see that is as solid as this rock. So we also know that time doesn't stand still. Seasons always change. Just like if this is east, where the sun rises in the morning, we also know that morning will always become the afternoon. We always know that the afternoon will become the evening. Now we also know that the day will become night, a time of reflection, a time of storytelling. And that's what we're doing right now. I'm sharing a story with you. A story that can change depending on my mood, depending how you feel. It will never be the same. But there's always those constants, right? And we're going to talk about some of those constants, because when we look at our universe, there are going to be some changes. There are going to be things like morning will always be morning, night will always be night. But whenever we think about maybe, let's say, our totem spirits. Now, I'm from the Cree Nation, so our animals are very similar to the animals here on the West Coast, where I am an indigenous settler, where I grew up from a young man, and I was so blessed to be actually mentored by a lot of West Coast people from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation and the Métis Nation. And they taught me different lessons on life, of how to walk in this territory. Now, one thing that we do share is at the beginning of our life, at, let's say, springtime, It's a beautiful start of the day, just like when the sun is rising, when it's morning time. It always becomes spring. And you know that spring will always become summer. And here in Canada, summer is upon us now. National Indigenous Peoples Days was just a week ago. And now here we are, watching this on July 1st. We know that it is a good day to reflect over how we move forward as a people. We're going to talk more about that, because this is a time of coming together and working together and doing great things. But I don't want to jump ahead of myself, because when we talk about great things, we can reflect on this picture again. Great people coming together, not just the voyeurs, but the Aboriginal people that helped and taught them to move forward as a people. We can move forward too, because what we always come to is coming to here, right? This is a time when the sun sets. It's evening time. It's also a time of finding that great spirit animal, that animal that's going to realize that there's more to life and we have to grow as a people. That's why I like this stone so much. This is a heart stone. So we're going to leave this heart stone right here. And this stone represents the West. And when we talked about animals, spirit animals, in the East, we need that great animal that would be able to soar so high into the heavens it can actually talk to the Creator, right? We need that animal that has the vision to see for miles ahead, because it has a great journey to go across. That, of course, is the eagle. That eagle can represent what the beginning of life is like. It can encapsulate love, right? Over here, as I talked about, this one over here, we're going to put down as the wolf. Now, I wish I was doing this in front of a group of children, which I always do with the school district of Langley, because this is the time when I get them to howl to the moon as loud as they can, like a wolf, right? So maybe you can do me a favor, and if you hear this lesson, then I want you to take a moment, look up to the sky and howl as loud as you can, right? To bring in that spirit of the wolf. And the reason we choose the wolf is because at this time, you start out with that love, that beginning, that new day, springtime. You're just a little infant. And you grow and you grow and you grow, and then suddenly you become a youth. And when you're a youth, oh my, life is so great. It's the time when the sun is so high in the sky that, you know, it's so bright, it's so hot. And I'm sure you know what I mean when it's so hot. Right now outside, it's a blazing sun. But couldn't it be so much more beautiful than the way it is right now? The wolf spirit. That's a time when youth really go onto that journey, and they realize that they can either be a lone wolf, where they could seek out their own solitude, find a hilltop at the night and howl to that moon, that lone wolf. Or that same wolf can realize the importance of community and family and find its wolf pack. And when they have that wolf pack, they can do great things, like being able to go through an unknown territory, through rapids, right? Where you don't know what's happening around that corner, but yet with your brothers, you're able to work together and build a strong nation, right? But that nation definitely cannot be built by themselves. That pack is always together. And the Aboriginal people were always there teaching and guiding. And that's where we come here, to Spirit of the Bear. I love these stones. They remind me of what the bear spirit is, and that is the heart stone. Because when you become a bear spirit, you got to start learning to stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about your community. Start thinking about things that are more important than themselves. I talked about this foundation, this teaching of the medicine wheel, and it being a mirror. This mirror, we can look at ourselves through this mirror. And when you're a child, this mirror is you. You are the center of that universe. And if you're lucky and you decide to find that wolf pack so you can braze through uncharted territories, well, maybe you're lucky and you can actually find friends to join you. That mirror has suddenly grown to be great. But sooner or later, when you get to be an adult, you're going to find that notion where maybe it's not about you and your friends. Maybe it's about your child. Maybe it's about the family that you're building for your community, right? Maybe those things become greater than you will ever be. So let's put that in there. Our community, our family, our child. Because when we look at this journey, we look at the things that are important to us. You remember this one? This was the one I put down for us, because as an infant, we always start out in a good way. I want you to remember what it was like when you were a little child, when everything was new and fresh, like that eagle spirit we talked about, right? And that eagle was soaring and it was looking forward. There's so much possibilities. There's so many things. Just like when Canada, 152 years or 153, 154 years ago, they probably never thought of what would happen today. And I mean this in a good way. The friendships, the schools, our hospitals, all of these beautiful things that we have around us, right? The possibilities of moving forward. Our whole universe is right there. I love that because our universe is so condensed. In it, we're lucky because we have the possibilities of great things, but we also have that love, which I spoke about many times for this area. And that love is brought by our parents, our mother, our father. Maybe we're lucky because in the Cree, our parents were vital to our love and our understanding, but we also embraced our extended family because they weren't an extended family. They were as important as our mom and dad. So our uncles, our grandparents, they were responsible for our growth and our development. So our community was so important. And that was the reason why over here, community is so important for us. Because community and family are one. So here we have this great journey. We're a little bitty infant walking along, looking around, right? Filled with joy, love, security, everything. Life is great, right? If we're even lucky, like myself, you'd probably even have a pet, a little furry animal, My mother told me that when I was a little boy, we had a lot of Labrador retrievers because we grew up in the bush. They worked with my father to actually get the beavers out of the water, right? But we also had, my first friend was a black bear. Wow. So you're looking at a guy that used to wrestle bears when he grew up. So I'll put that bear right in there too, because that is another story that I would love to share with you down the road. Everything's going great, right? Now, when we get to this point of our life, suddenly our world just explodes, right? Our universe explodes. Like a Big Bang Theory, right? We were all comfortable, we all had our love, and then suddenly, bang! It exploded. Now, we can look at this in a good way and a bad way, right? There's still the love. We still have our relatives, our community guiding us, teaching us. But what I love about this is we suddenly get to the point of young adulthood. And that's the time of the wolf, where we find our pack, we find our way of mastery. And what I love about this time is this is when we find our friends. And that is why I love doing this in a schoolroom. Because in there, I always ask the children to say, who is your favorite friend, right? Or a good friend. Then I always hear, Melissa, or Annalisa, or Carly, or Rob McCulloch. Right? You get all of these amazing people that suddenly become part of your life, right? And they help us, they grow, they move us forward, they challenge us to be the best we can be. And that is what a wolf pack really needs us to do, to challenge us, to push us, to give us those healthy challenges, to do healthy risks. That is why being a young adult is important. And if you're lucky, right here, you might be lucky to find that true love and connect it to a heartstone. Now maybe that young woman, that young man is going to come into your life and change your life. And maybe you will find that you will become a parent yourself. Wow. When we talked about how the universe can explode, can you imagine what this one will do to your life? Suddenly, things are going to be a lot more important. Suddenly you're going to start thinking about, how clean is my water going to be for my child? How clean do we need our air to be? But how am I going to be able to work in an environment in a good way, but be able to provide for that family? These are questions that need to be addressed, especially in our community, because, well, let's face it, we have to find that balance, right? The only thing about finding balance is, take a look at our medicine wheel right now. We haven't even completed it, but yet we're asking ourselves great questions, amazing questions, because we're adults now. We have to start being reflective into ourselves. We have to start thinking about other people. But how can we do that if we don't have our knowledge yet? We are a circle that's not finished yet. We got to find that wisdom, and we got to find those storytellers, because our storytellers are our elders. And what I love about our elders is, even though they may be far and away, my mother, my elder, the person that holds my heartstrings, she's all the way in Grand Prairie, Alberta, and I hope right now, Mommy, you're watching me. right? Because I always need that wisdom, that line, because we're all connected, right? And if I want to walk in a good way, then I need her to be connected with me, so we have those stories. Now this is starting to look like a medicine wheel that I can be proud of. That is something that me and you are building together. Because like I said, every day we walk, we don't walk in the exact same steps as our ancestors. We may walk in those same paths, we may walk in those ancient trails, but we always walk our own way, our own gait, our own swagger, but it's definitely our own. Because we take all the things we learned when we were a young child. We take all of those craziness and those things that we regret and the embarrassments of growing up through adolescence. We take all of the hardships of things that we've went through. We take all those stories that we learned from our elders. And that is when we get to the time of generosity, right? That's when we start thinking like the elders, and we realize that now it's not the whole point of taking care of us, but making sure that those stories are passed on. If our cameraman can swing over here for a second, we can look at some of these amazing pictures of some great leaders from a long time ago. Elders that came all the way from BC to come here to talk about the future of their people. In yesteryears, now for some of you, you may think 1966 is ancient history, but for people like myself, that was just a few years before I was born. But these people walked the path, these ancient paths. They blazed trails so that great leaders like Chief Larrabee can come forward and lead her people with stories and legends of her history, of all these great people, so that we can sit here on these unceded territories and share these stories. So we will put this one for Chief Larrabee. We'll put this beautiful stone for her ancestors that gave her the courage and the determination to move forward, so that the Kakite people will always be here, not just ghosts, but actual living, breathing people with a great culture. A culture doesn't have to be extinct. A culture doesn't have to go away because another culture is on top of it. No, it will disappear if you let it. Chief Larrabee never let it. I will never let it. All of my friends and my co-workers, the Spirited Children, my allies here at the Cultural Museum, they won't let our culture die. Oh, Canada, at a time of our hardest, darkest times, this is a time that I smile and I think of Chief Dan George's speech, and I know that we will rise out of the ocean like a thunderbird. And we will use the tools all around us so that our people will grow. We will listen to our stories from our elders. We will learn from the histories from our books. We will learn from teachers from all around the world so that we become the best we can be. So Canada, like this rock that has been here for a millennia, since time immemorial, we will be here. Now, the thing I like about this Canada is on this day, this very important day, a time when a lot of people would like to take this rock that represents Canada and throw it over there. But no, at this time, I believe Canada needs to be right here, because we need a time to not be in this grief, to be angry and to seek revenge. In a perfect world, we can look at this ancient way of thinking of life, moving from being an infant filled with love, having friends around you, doing impossible things, becoming an adult and looking for the best good, becoming an elder so you can teach and nurture so that the next generation can go. 100 years ago, people would come and take our children away. They were unable to find that family and that community, and that was taken away. Because of that, our circle was never completed. We were unable to care for our children. That was taken away. Our elders weren't taught the stories, so they couldn't share their stories. So that was taken away. Such small steps, but they leave rippling effects into our circle. We look at this circle, and with it being incomplete, we can't move forward. We start to hurt. And oh, Canada, we have hurt for over 154 years. Since the beginning of the Indian Act of 1776, that oppression kept us from growing as a people, to learning to love and to have friends. So that pain, like these big holes in our heart, had to be filled. So we tried to fill it with alcohol. Didn't work. So we tried drugs, and that didn't work. We drank that fire water, like Chief Dan George said, and it got us drunk. Oh, so drunk. But it never made us forget. We may have lost our way because that pain amplified. And when we find those dead, buried bodies, we start looking at suicide. We start looking at our health that will deteriorate. The Aboriginal people went through a genocide, there is no doubt about it. We suffered, and we suffer today, something we can't get over because we're still living this hell. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. How are we going to do this? How are we going to bring this back? I look at Chief Larrabee, and I think of the power that she has. I look at this picture, and I see the medicine wheel blazed on this canoe, and it gives me hope. I think of my mother that's in my heart right now, and I know we could do this because we can bring the love back. And as much as I would love to take these pain, this suffering, how I would just love to throw it at that there picture of that red-coated colonizer, that RCMP officer, how I would just love to throw these away, but you know what? We can't throw these away. I know it may be pain, right? The drug addiction, the self-medicating, the loss. My brothers, uncles, my suicides, fathers, myself. Sometimes we would just love to forget about that, but we can't. Because our story, our narrative is intertwined with you, Canada, and now we have to start telling new stories. And that's why I am here, right? To tell a story of hope, a story of reconciliation, a story of truth. Truth. that unbreakable truth. So when we look at this medicine wheel, it is different. It's going to change like the flowing water in a river, but it's always going to be there. And if we let every stone stay the way it's meant to stay, it's only going to make us stronger, so that Canada and the First Nation people can work together as one and maybe be that country we're supposed to be meant. My name is Ernie Cardinal, and I am here as a Nehiel from the Sarker Creek First Nation, but I'm also here as a Canadian. I want you to join me in my medicine wheel so that we can live in harmony. And if we grow in love and we listen to that truth and we can make that step to reconciliation, then maybe, just maybe, we can be the country that Canada was meant to be. All my relations,